Let us start the dictation. Start. The Parliamentary Committee report on genetically modified organisms is an attempt to give a quiet burial to biotechnology in India. On behalf of the farmers of India, let me say that this report totally fails to reflect farmers' aspirations and distorts the scientific significance of biotechnology, including genetic engineering, for the national economy. Instead, it echoes persistent canards by some environmental NGOs. Indian farming suffers losses of up to rupees 1 lakh crore from pests and diseases annually, apart from natural calamities. Till the 1960s, India used only conventional breeding for seeds, but these traditional varieties were insufficient to feed the country, which became totally dependent for food aid from the US. Then came the Green Revolution, which harnessed biotechnology. This saved India from starvation and made it a food exporter. But the limits of the Green Revolution technology have reached. We now have new kinds of biotechnology, including GM crops. The government has created the Genetic Engineering Approval Committee to regulate the entry for new GM crops. Unfortunately, the Parliamentary Committee's report seems to be written for them by green activists without reference to scientists or farmers. Instead of hailing GM crops, that is, genetically modified, as a huge success, they are being portrayed as dangerous. This demonization will demoralize top Indian researchers. But cotton, approved by GEAC, Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, in 2002, is one of the most successful stories of Indian agriculture after the Green Revolution. 50,000 hectares were planted in 2002, and by 2012 this reached 10 million hectares planted by 10 million farmers in 9 states. India became the second largest producer of cotton in the world. It was a boon to Indian farmers. Yet the Parliamentary Committee has swallowed NGOs' claims that this has been of no use at all for farmers. Genetically modified crops of maize, soya, potato, sugar, canola, cotton, and alfalfa are grown across the world. The US, Brazil, Argentina, and China are massive producers. The global genetically modified crops area increased from 4.3 million hectares in 1996 to 148 million hectares by 2010. Not a single case of any danger to human health has been reported, yet green activists keep spreading false stories about health hazards. 10 industrial nations and 19 developing countries are producing GM crops. Another 30 countries, including EU countries which do not grow GM crops themselves, are importing and consuming GM foods directly and indirectly. The European Union countries that widely oppose genetically modified crops have barely 15 million farmers and follow double standards. They import huge quantity of cattle feed and beef from GM crop producing countries including Brazil. So, genetically modified crops are very much in the European food chain. Besides, over 15 million European tourists visit the US and Latin America every year and happily consume genetically modified food there with no adverse health effects. Yet they make a huge noise in their own countries. But today, even the European Union has allowed some genetically modified crops. Spain has 76,675 hectares of maize is the leader. China is growing BT cotton, tomato, papaya and sweet pepper. In 2007, it gave in principle approval for BT rice and BT maize. As of 2010, China was cultivating 3.5 million hectares of BT crops. Will sound economics, which is what the slew of much delayed measures announced by the government to boost investors' confidence amounts to also prove to be sound politics. One answer to the question should come with the way the government has dealt with Mamata Banerjee's ultimatum. If it continues to remain firm as it has in its dealing with her, it will signal the strength of its resolve to risk its survival in office to uphold the national interest. That in turn will stimulate to some extent the efforts of other parties to push UPA to the wall. The Samajwadi Party in particular will then think twice before it lets its increasingly strident rhetoric against the Congress reach a point of no return. Even more significantly, the BJP, which championed reforms when it was in power but has now become the Pied Piper of no holds barred populism, will find it hard to sustain its fierce opposition to the government, as it is the party's endeavour to paralyze Parliament hasn't gone down too well even in those sections of opinion that have been outraged by Colgate and other scams that have dented the reputation possibly beyond repair. But if the government manages to ensure that the Samajwadi Party does not abandon it, the BJP will be in a tight spot. In fact, it will face a worse prospect should some of its allies, such as the Akali, break ranks with it on the latest reforms package, not least because it allows states to fashion their own policies as regards foreign direct investments in multi-brand retail.